Hey, it's me, Uncle Ricky. Look, welcome to another episode of Uncle Ricky's House. And I'm going to go kind of local, not, exactly hometown local, but let's just say state local, Virginia, BOTETORT County. Recently, the Board of Supervisors, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, proposed uh, regulations applying to public libraries in BOTETORT County, and basically what he wants, or basically what the board of supervisors approved was that uh, if you're under 18 years old, which I guess you still considered a child in most states, unless it comes to marriage with the approval of, in some states with the approval of your parents who want to get rid of their 13-year-old daughters, or in some states where they feel like 13 and 14-year-olds females should be, targets for marriage and forced reproduction. And, that's why they want to ban abortion in a lot of places. And it's all based on archaic thinking and, I guess, ideals that really, even though they apply because we're all humans and ideals apply to humans, but they do not apply to the situation that most Americans live in today. Now, the thing with this rule, it seems that it's done for a mighty purpose to protect the minds of the innocent. Well, I guess you got to look at a couple things. What is and what isn't innocent, and are we as adults being naive on how our children lose their innocence? Because it appears, and I'm not saying it as a point of deep concern. I'm just saying it as a point of reality. The way the world is, the entire world, not the little community we live in, not the little, isolationist world that we try to develop, but the whole real, revolving, day-to-day world. Innocence is a premium. In other words, it is not the most, I guess, predominant human quality that's available out there. It is very, very, it's a very, if you can quantify it, it's not really, innocence is lost, innocence is being wiped out from our society. And believe it or not, this push to protect innocence by banning anyone that's less than 18 without the escort of anyone that's 18 or older is helping to remove innocence, because a lot of people believe, and wrongly believe, that innocence is only protected, that innocence is only made viable by removing all other influences that whoever the ruling or governing party is decides. In other words, if they're in charge and they say it's bad, then it's bad, regardless of whether I like it or not. Hey. And in a way, maybe you could probably look at just about any law like that. But when it comes down to morals and scruples, it becomes exponentially more difficult to draw that line in the sand to be either left or right. And this is what the BOTETORT Board of Supervisors is doing. They're drawing that line in the sand. The school libraries have already come under questions. Virginia is so-called a purple state. It's not red, it's not blue, it's supposed to be moderate, somewhere in the middle. And I agree, Virginia is basically moderate, but I don't know if I would even dare to call it a purple state, because the extreme right still has a mighty voice in Virginia politics, especially in areas where they are considered to be the majority or the ruling power. And in a lot of these areas, Republican Party politics Uh, they just been that way for years. They don't know any better, and this is how the Republican Party has decided to treat society. They want to cut off any inputs of other thought, other theory, other than whatever the Republican Party on the national or state level wants to project as the way America should be. So now we have this call for isolationism, nationally. And states, are calling for a national divorce. That's isolation. Isolation. They want to remove themselves from all the bad influence, all the other things that not the state as a majority, but just the people that are in power in that state, the ruling class in this. They want to reject everything that they think is anti the interests of the state, the country, and in some cases, the church. Now, I guess you could say that, all this is natural and expected because people take pride in the things they belong to. People take pride in their, thoughts, the things that they hold high, the ideals that they have. And this is true. But see, America is supposed to be a melting pot. And this is, when I was coming up in school, and even though I knew that things weren't fair for, white and black people, red people, brown people, yellow people, and don't say I'm a racist for using colors. I'm just saying things were, as far as race, things have never been equal in the United States. There has been a movement to make them more equal, and even though it's not working as fast as some people think that it should, it is working. Things have changed. Things have gotten better. But for every action, there is a reaction, and in BOTETORT County, they are trying to put the brakes on this equalization and trying to camouflage it under the guise of religious protection of children's minds. Now, the thing with brainwashing kids is that you make new generations of followers. You make new generations of foot soldiers. You make new generations of less questions, because the kids, when you are successful in implementing your program, they don't know anything else because they haven't been exposed to anything else. And in a way, it makes it easier for the people that are in power, but what they don't realize is that they're not going to live forever, so they're not going to be in power forever, and that the world will continue to change with or without them. So if they really love their surroundings, if they really love their offspring, if they really cared about future generations surviving, why do you want to limit the educational opportunities to children? In other words, mold their education to fit your narrow-minded beliefs. What you're having, you're paranoid. You go to bed every night worried about, you want to kill your neighbor because they don't go to your church, or they don't vote like you do, or they don't support the same candidates you do, or they want different legislation. And it's crazy because it's come to the point where people are actually feel comfortable with pulling the trigger on their neighbors, because their neighbors, even though their neighbors are not doing anything but just being human, just expressing their beliefs, just going about their day-to-day business, just trying to get ahead, and in the words of the right, pull themselves up by their bootstraps, because that's the American way. But see, with a certain select group of people, the American way is their way, and there is no room for any other thoughts. Therefore, we have to ban books in our schools. We have to make sure that our kids can't go into a public library that's paid for by tax money. And I'm not saying tax money, and so people can say, well, know what? The Republicans, we pay taxes. No, you guys pay taxes, but you always bitch about the taxes. You always want to reduce taxes, and you always want to cut programs that cause you, in your mind, to spend wasted taxes. In other words, you know better. You can do everything that you need to do for yourself. You know you can do everything that you need to do for your community with your money based on your own beliefs, not what the government says, not what the government mandates, not what anybody else says. Everything is your way, and if anybody else can't get in line with your way, then you don't deserve a piece of the American pie, because we are the real Americans. All the rest of y'all, you got here one way or another, and you don't matter. That is the far right. That is the extremist belief. That is the belief of a lot of these people that are pushing these book bans and these library bans and coming up with all these crazy laws to limit the future generations' access to information, education. Now, I'll be the first to admit that, a 3-year-old really shouldn't be exposed to certain things. But when that 3-year-old, gets to be 8 years old, there's other things that they can be exposed to. There's other things that may not be taught in the home because the parents are of a certain persuasion, a certain belief that 8-year-old may need to know, or at least have an understanding of, to survive in the society, in the world of an 8-year-old in America today, outside of BOTETORT County. Now, as you approach, 17, 18, and irregardless of whether you want to go, extend your education into college if you can afford it, or you want to go into the working world if you can find a job outside of McDonald's or Hardee's or Target or whatever. And that is not free advertisement. Those names just came to mind. You do not have the basics. You do not have any concept of what you can do. Not just what you want to do, but the only thing that you know what you want to do is what you've been taught. That's the only thing that your mind can agree with. But your mind also says, you know what, there's more out there, and maybe we should explore it, but I'm afraid because I don't know anything about it. So I'm just going to revert to what was taught to me because that's my security blanket. That's what I'm most comfortable with. And irregardless of whether I know whether it works or not, because if it doesn't work, I'm not going to know, because I live in an isolationist society that's not going to tell me the truth anyway, one way or another. Then I just become another cog in a gear. I just become another notch. I just become another figure, another sheep, and much like the right calls anybody that's not ultra MAGA a sheep, they are creating their own sheep, and they like it like that. These parents, far right wing, they don't want to be questioned in their homes. They don't want to be questioned in their board of supervisors meetings. They don't want to be questioned in, the state house when the state assembly takes away a woman's right to choose. They don't want to be questioned when they are the governors, a la Ron DeSantis or Glenn Youngkin or Sarah Huckabee. They don't want to be questioned when they are the president, because in the words of Donald Trump, when they get to that level, they have to believe in only I can fix it. And in order to sell the rest of the misinformed, underexposed population, people that actually do go out and vote, they have to trigger all of these biases, all of these misconceptions, and they have to feed them to the hilt to turn them into a vote at the election box. And if you start out like BOTETORT County, the Republican Board of Supervisors wants to do, in 18 years, you're going to have Republican voters because that's all they know. You know, you're going to have an isolationist community that doesn't know any better, that reverts to the same old names, to do things the same old way, because they are paranoid and afraid of change. And if you think I'm lying, just look around wherever you live in Virginia. Small town, small city, big city. Democrat, Republican. It's the same. It's about control of your mind. It's about control of the people. Anywhere where you see crumbling infrastructure, where you see decrepit school systems, where you see behind the times school systems, where you see counties that would rather build animal shelters over drug rehabilitation facilities, but yet and still they cry about the influx of fentanyl across the southern border. It's a real thing. The drug problem, the migrant problem is a is a real thing. Children being exposed to things that they shouldn't be is a real thing. But when you pick these things up as a blind, when you use them as a blind to hide your real purpose, in other words, locking in the people in your area to a particular belief because that's your belief, locking them into supporting you over all others because you have basically mind fucked them. That's the Republican way. There is no room for getting out of step with the party. You know, people are paranoid of communism, people are paranoid of socialism, when socialism has been in this country since day one. It just wasn't labeled as socialism. But you are paranoid because your mind has been conditioned to think a certain way. You see power, you call it effectual because they get what they want, and it has nothing to do whether it's good for you. You're just caught up, you in the magpie trap, you know, everything that's shiny and, you know, glistening, and, you know, I gotta have it. And that's the effect that MAGA, right-wing extremism, fascism, that's what they want to put on the United States, and they're starting at the grassroots level, the local level. Make everything the way you want it, cut off all input from anything that could possibly be counter to anything that you want to do, and you use any excuse that you can think of, whether it's the children, whether it's the Bible, whether, you know, whatever gets into the hearts and souls of people the quickest and the most effectively. And unfortunately, very little of this technique is used for the good, probably because the technique itself is rooted in evil. But those that have narrow-minded intent for this country, or selective intent to where their group is number one, they relish this shit. They live. This is what they do. They don't come up with plans to improve the lot of anyone but themselves, and that is to send the message, much like in the way Youngkin sends the message, like, you know, you may not like me, but if you don't do what I say do, I'm going to cut you off one way or another. And that's what Republicans are doing. They are cutting off everyone else so that they either die on the vine, and they are throwing a facade, a camouflage, a wall around the people that they want to bring into their tent. But it is not a wall of protection. It is a wall of isolation. In other words, if all you can hear is the bullshit that we have to say, and we make it so that you can't get to any other input without being obvious, so that we know that you are listening to things that are anti to the crap that we're saying, then we don't want it. Therefore, we have book bans in school libraries, and you can't go through the library on your own unless you are over 18 or have the accompaniment of an adult. I got a freebie that I'm gonna toss out for you. You know that this is going to kill the use of public libraries, because when someone that is less than 18 has to get someone that is older than 18 to accompany them to the library, it makes it almost an impossibility, because who you gonna get? You got parents, even in Red Wing, I mean in red districts, red communities, that are working 2 and 3 jobs to maintain what they call the standard of living in the United States. Then you have other people that may be financially well off, but they spend most of their time trying to figure out how they can put another $100 in their bank account before the clock strikes the next hour. Where are these kids going to get these adults from to accompany them to the library to read a copy of whatever? Maybe they want to go to the public library to get the stuff that they can't get in their public school libraries. Maybe they can want to go to the library so maybe they can read something that the rest of the world considers to be age appropriate, but because it talks about somebody that survived, whatever the harsh impact of being, part of the LGBTQ community, or somebody that overcame racial prejudice, or somebody that, did something that is just not considered to be right-wing and acceptable. This thing of saying what everybody can and can't read, it's a dangerous road to go down, and it only has one purpose. That is to make thinking a monolith in this country, and for a country that was developed on freedom of thought, freedom of religion. In other words, there's more religions that have the right to be here outside of Christianity. The thought that anybody has the ability to be anything that they can, as long as they try to accomplish it under the law, without breaking the law, or without changing the law to suit their own benefit. This is where we are at in America, and we think it's such a hard hill to climb. We think that there's only, if we instead of tackling it head on, we think it's better to just, if we duck our heads and get along to go along. Well, coming from a race of people that have been doing that for at least the last, let's say 150 years, it's that ducking your head stuff, get along, it doesn't work, because the more you stay silent, the more the other side, the oppressor side, the side that wants everything their way, thinks that it is a sign of weakness, and that whatever is coming out of their mouth, whatever they're implementing, is okay. It's time to speak up before we have to act up. And that's just the way it is on this Sunday in August in 2023. Well, as always, peace out, and whatever God you believe in. God bless. See you when I see you. Until next time, Uncle Ricky from Uncle Ricky's house.